So friends, today we're going to talk about apartments in Bali with a 2-year installment plan, construction time, and with a 77-year leasehold. What's interesting here? First of all, this is often the case in Bali. Real estate for foreigners is usually sold with a leasehold for 25 to 30 years. This is your property for 25 to 30 years with the right to extend, meaning this leasehold can be renewed. Well, we covered this in another video. By the way, you can find it. Check it out on our channel. But 77 years is, first of all, a huge term. Even if it's a leasehold in all its characteristics, this leasehold is no different from a freehold. Freehold means full ownership of the land, and a foreigner really can own land in Bali, if not directly as an individual, but indirectly if they are the founder and shareholder of a company, a legal entity in Indonesia, in whose name the freehold of this land is registered, and in all its characteristics. Their freehold is granted for 80 years, with 3 certificates, 30, 30, and 20 years. In this current project, leasehold is granted for 77 years. Again, as for the legal formalities, you can consult the developer's lawyer about that. In Britain, in London, there's a saying that when it comes to real estate, you always have to think about how you will sell it. The essence of this principle is that real estate is an asset that you can buy with money, but again, when you need to, you have to be able to turn that asset back into money. Accordingly, the liquidity of real estate is important. This is one of the most important factors, except in cases where you consciously understand that you are buying an asset solely for passive income, but it is not in demand on the secondary market. But for the type of real estate we are discussing today, this is fundamentally important. How and to whom will you sell this property, and how valuable will it be on the secondary market? So, when you buy a property with a 77-year leasehold, even after 10 years when you sell, your leasehold will still be 67 years. And for your new buyer, that's still a lot, an incomparably long period. And you won't have to discount your price because of the leasehold shrinking over time. Leasehold, because with the usual model, when you buy a leasehold for 25 to 30 years after 5 to 10 years, your leasehold shrinks. Accordingly, for it to be profitable for a new buyer to purchase your property, you need to compensate for the value of the land, the value of this leasehold for the current period, which has already been burned, so to speak. That costs money, but it's not a lot of money, really. There's a common belief, a kind of myth, that it costs tens or even many tens of thousands of dollars. No, in reality, it's not expensive, but still, the fact remains. And when you resell a property where the leasehold has 67 years left, it's practically the same as a freehold. The depreciation is negligibly small. Accordingly, your property will be capitalized not only due to the increase in land value in that area. And when you choose a project, you need to understand that this area is developing, that it's not at the highest level yet, and that it's not somewhere far away from tourist flows, and it's not popular. You need to understand that the area is just beginning to develop, so the value of the land will increase, and accordingly the value of your property will also grow over time because the land is appreciating and the area is developing. The second factor is inflation, inflationary processes. You know that in the world, especially over the past 5 years, inflation has been enormous, and inflation always leads to an increase in value. And real estate is the most stabilizing asset, which offsets and compensates for this inflation. Accordingly, every year your property automatically increases in value. But aside from these factors, which affect everyone and the entire market, in your project, in the current project, in your case, it's 77 years. The leasehold is a mechanism for capitalizing, an additional mechanism for capitalizing your property. Accordingly, in 5, 10, or 15 years. It will also be easy for you to sell this property, and the shortening of the leasehold does not negatively affect the value. On the contrary, it strengthens it. Because there are very, very few projects on the market that are sold with such a long leasehold. And even if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not going to own this asset for 77 years, it doesn't really matter to me. I'll rent it out for 5 years, recoup my money, get my investment back, and sell my asset with a margin. I don't need a 77-year leasehold. Maybe you personally don't need it, but for your buyer, the one who will purchase your asset, this will be a very important factor. And right now on the market, at least in this price category, with this concept and this approach, the project we'll discuss today There simply aren't any other properties like it. Its positioning is that it's practically a freehold at the price of a leasehold. The price of this project, of these properties, is basically comparable to a 25 or 30-year leasehold. With our colleagues who are present on the market in other projects and in the current project where the leasehold is 77 years. And this isn't the only advantage. There are a number of other benefits as well. Let's move on to them step by step. I want to immediately highlight the strongest points of this project with some powerful triggers. Just imagine, 77 years. A paid leasehold, 37 square meters. These are large, full-size hotel rooms with a kitchen and all amenities. This isn't 25 or 27 square meters, as is often the case in this area, but we'll get back to the competitors in a moment. The cost of a unit starts from $107,000, which translates to $2,914 per square meter, a very good market factor, even below the market rate. We'll come back to this. The developer Nexa is also one of the strongest factors of this project. The developer's project portfolio amounts to 19,000 square meters over 6 years in Bali. A large number of assets and square meters owned by this developer. In other words, this is a person who came here a long time ago, is staying here for the long term, and is accumulating assets here. And this is also a very important factor. So you understand that this is not a fly-by-night developer, not a one-off project where someone comes, quickly builds, sells, makes money, and runs away from the island, as so often happens in such fast-developing dynamic markets because they attract with their profitability both developers and investors. And premium quality, of course, with a 10-year warranty, which is a very, very important factor. I won't go into too much detail about the developer, their history, the finer points of this project, or the financial model. We won't get into the details so as not to burden you and not to make this video too long. But you can always leave a request and consult with our professional investment broker who will provide you with all the information and expert advice. As for the location, it's Pandava Beach. Pandava is one of the best beaches in Bali, located in the most popular and rapidly developing Bukit area. A full-fledged hotel infrastructure, a hotel operator, a professional hotel operator who has extensive experience, property management specifically in Bali, which is very important. So not just a global Kuta hotel operator who is only starting out in Bali. These are people who have been in Bali for a long time in the premium segment and have great successful cases, really good ones. Why did we say unsuccessful? Maybe what is meant is a full-fledged hotel infrastructure, including a gym, spa, kids areas, pools, and a shuttle. Service C. There is also the main infrastructure in the area, including beaches and so on. Rooftop bars, breakfast, and everything else. A complete set of infrastructure for a 5-star hotel. What is the most interesting thing I want to say about this project? Yes, so we've set that aside. We've already talked about Lehalis, about the project's advantages, the concept itself. Just look at the renders of this project. Yes, it's incredibly beautiful. This is one of the best concepts I've seen on the Bali real estate market because most of the time here, they just build square meters. They just take a box, build it, do some kind of architecture, banal, standard, do some basic interior design and sell it as square meters. But in this project, there is soul, there is a philosophy. For example, there are some very strong points here, which by no means are the main or most important features of the project, but they are very important secondary elements that create, a sense of greatness in the details. For example, in this hotel, there will be 5 photo zones and a professional in-house photographer who will do a professional photo shoot in these zones for every hotel guest. So just imagine, you're traveling with your wife and you know very well who usually decides which hotel to stay at. Well, it's always the woman. In a couple, it's always the woman, or at least most of the time. And how does a woman decide where she wants to stay? Reviews, of course, and photos, pictures. She'll imagine herself taking a picture at that bar, by that pool, at that photo spot, and so on. And the unique feature of this hotel, by the way, this was our recommendation to the developer, and the developer implemented it, meaning they put it into practice, which is a huge advantage. Every guest gets a free photo session. Then all of this gets posted on Instagram. Guests share it, tag the hotel, and tag our location. So this factor alone can't guarantee success, but it is very important for success. and there are many such factors in this hotel. So, in order to understand how much income this apartment will bring us, we need to figure out the daily rental rate. It all makes sense. How do we figure out what the rental price will be? We look at the competitor. For example, there's a hotel called Adila Bali, which is in our orbit. This screenshot was taken on August 15th with a Genius 3 discount. So this isn't just the regular price, it's already the best possible rate. This room was rented out for a minimum of 2 nights because they were overbooked. That's an average of $150 per night for an area of 38 square meters, which in principle is comparable to ours. So you could say it's a direct competitor, right? But the comment my team wrote, and by the way, I personally visited this property as well. I went there, checked it out, and I can fully confirm this. They have old air conditioners, old finishes, a musty smell, and mold. It's a typical old Balinese building. The pool cafe is nice, of course, but it's not a full-fledged, it's not a real hotel. It's more of a boutique hotel in a small, intimate format. We also have futon palms, and I've been to that hotel as well. Take a look at the architecture, the design, and so on. It's $105 per night for 40 square meters. There is, so to speak, a market where such hotels are rented out at very good prices. Now, I want to show you the financial model of a unit for $107,000. Here, the forecast indicates a rate starting from $90 and a 75% occupancy rate. So this is actually quite pessimistic compared to the competitors currently on the market. Overall, in the financial models we create, we use rather pessimistic forecasts. And you have to agree, the hotel I just showed you, where the price is $150, well, in the off-season, it sometimes dropped to $100, even down to $90. It's normal for there to be half a month or a month when the price is lower, and when there are vacant units, they can offer a discount on the same day. Because in Bali, by the way, when you monitor competitors, you need to do it correctly. In Bali, people often book their vacations in advance, since it's an island. That's why for future dates, the price can even be higher than for last-minute bookings day by day. When a hotel has a lot of vacant rooms, or even just a few, they can lower the price on the same day to attract guests. Either way, the room will sit empty, so at least they'll attract someone. Obviously, our hotel will be much more popular, in demand, and more expensive. But at the same time, in our financial forecasts, we set much lower prices than even our competitors, whose hotels are much worse than ours. The second hotel, for example, is being built over 2 years. You have an interest-free installment plan for 2 years there. And that means in 2 years, when it starts being rented out, thanks to inflation and increased demand. In this area, Pandava is already there, and it's developing very quickly, becoming popular within 2 years. The rental price will definitely go up. In our financial model, we didn't even account for this indexation. So this is a pessimistic forecast multiplied by another pessimistic forecast. You understand, right? In other words, we have underestimated our numbers twice. And occupancy, yes, in our competing hotels, it's about 90%, but we set it at 75%. So we took a pessimistic scenario, multiplied it by another pessimistic scenario, and then by yet another pessimistic scenario. So this is a factor that multiplies several factors, each less than one, multiplying together. Accordingly, we see that even with such a super pessimistic forecast, with a unit price of $107,000, the ROI comes out to 14.67%. So we understand that it should actually be much better. And even with a pessimistic forecast, we still get a pretty good result. I believe the project is worthy. The developer is reputable, the location is excellent, the concept is incredibly beautiful, and it will definitely attract tourists' attention. And this is one of the best projects I have seen in Bali. If you're interested, I recommend leaving an application and speaking with our broker. Our investment consultant will advise you, provide all the information, all the materials, and if you wish, you can close the deal. Goodbye to everyone.